Welcome into the Fantasy Sanctuary and welcome into 2025 Best Ball. We are getting things going before we even get to February this year. That is right, myself and Tyler back in the Best Ball streets again. Tonight we'll be jumping into the big board drafts. Be drafting with many of you fine people, I would guess. Let us know how many of these drafts you've already done. Tyler, how many of these drafts have you got into already? Fast drafts, I'm not talking about those slows.
Yeah, we're probably like 3 or 4 in just to take the temperature, and it's been fantastic. I've missed it so much. The heroin addict in me is very happy to have his draft handy back. It's been great.
Yeah, and shout out to everybody watching. Really awesome to get Best Ball season going and be hanging out with all you fine people again. Hopefully, Best Ball 2024 treated you well. It sends us down to the 111 to start things off. Tyler, how are you treating the rookies? Because I'll be honest, I count on Rich, who puts together our rookie guide in the Fantasy Sanctuary Discord, so much when it comes to rookie evaluations. I rely on other people across the industry as well. But I don't watch college. For me, during the NFL season, I just do not have time for it. Are you up to speed on the rookies, or are you still kind of just muddling through and just try to scoop a bit of rookie perceived value when it falls?
Yeah, I am definitely not a college ball savant, but I've just tried to keep my ears and eyes open to stuff that's been coming in as far as guys that are really popping. But yeah, I'm gonna learn a lot with Rich's rookie guide. I really enjoy what Spags does over on the Splash Play channel
Yeah.
with his rookie stuff. That's been a really helpful tool in past drafts, and I will once again be leaning on things like that. As long as what the fantasy points guys do, what the ETR guys do, what legendary upside, I will take in all the information and insert my delicious biases into it, and then hope to get lucky once again. In all honesty, though, I right now in the process, I'm going to be just like ears and eyes to the Senior Bowl, guys that are popping, guys that are a little concerning, and then just going to be grinding all like the consensus board stuff because I think the draft is going to make or break so many guys as far as value and situation are concerned. But if you can take a lot of shots on rookies who are likely to be drafted in the top 3 rounds, that's going to be a lot better than guys like the Isaiah Davises of the world
Yeah.
who might go undrafted or really late, and then those guys have really thin paths. So it's like trying to game the value pockets of who is being overdrafted as far as who's likely to be drafted high in the NFL draft.
Yeah, so we're a couple of picks away, and we'll get to have first rounds played out. But the guys ahead of us right now: CeeDee Lamb, Devon Chan, Brian Thomas, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Christian McCaffrey, Malik Neighbors. For me, CeeDee Lamb was the clear value there. So I think my lean, if he falls to us, is Amon-Ra St. Brown. We've recorded some of our slow draft picks we're going to put up on the channel over the next couple of days. Of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown goes. It feels good to start getting sniped again. Where are you? Do you want to go Devon Achan, or do you want to go Brian Thomas or Malik Neighbors?
I've been smashing BTJ here, so for the sake of consistency, if you like Malik Neighbors more, I'm going to try to draft as much of these two guys as I can for the most part, given the early ADPs. So what say you?
Yeah, my slight lean is to Malik Neighbors. I just think when you look at what he did this year, despite the fact that he missed several games and dealt with the quarterback play that he did, I do still lean to Malik Neighbors. I know Brian Thomas dealt with, having Mac Jones throwing the ball, who isn't a good deep ball thrower. And then I know that he's getting the offensive upgrade in Liam Cohen. But I just think Malik Neighbors is really special and that they're going to build their offense around him. So ideally, it would have been nice if we could have got Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas goes at the turn. We'll get through this pick and then we'll get to some of the other bits and some of the chat as well. But Derrick Henry, your boy, Lad McConkey, Brock Bowers, Drake London, who Drake London I thought might fall just a little bit further than he is at the minute, is an ADP of 18.6. People do seem still high on him. Jonathan Taylor, and then Ashton Genty, our first rookie at pick 19. Where do you want to go, Tyler?
I don't love Lad or Drake London's prices too much right now, frankly. So what say you? I know where your bias lies.
Well, the thing is, I never made you draft Derrick Henry last year. We didn't draft much.
I wish you would have.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Let's take Derrick Henry and just put it in. I mean, the Ravens are saying all the right things that they want to extend him. So there's plenty of interesting stuff. So let's before we start talking about all the first round and how that played out, Historical Anomalies in the chat, good friend, one of our YouTube members. If you want to be like Historical Anomalies, hit the join button down below. What do we have available in the UK now for best ball? Drafters, did DraftKings pay out UK people for 2020 for the best ball? Yeah, DraftKings were, you can't fault them for how they handled things after they made their decision. They paid out incredibly promptly. They were very good about it. They communicated well. They did everything they needed to. But yeah, DraftKings now completely gone. Drafters is available. You have to go through a manual verification process to get your money out, which takes a little bit longer than normal. And then FFPC, where I've had good success over the last couple of years. I've had 4-figure wins over there on both the last 2 years, so I'll be playing on there quite a lot. And then we'll see what else happens. I know there's a couple of other companies who are looking to make moves within the best ball industry, but I'm not sure if we'll see anything massive in the UK. And then shout out Lewis. Lewis is grinding lots of rookie content as well on his channel, Fantasy Pancake. Go and hit subscribe over there if you are looking for more rookie content. Lewis doing great work. And I've missed getting stressed how close to timing out you two get while chatting. Well, that's, Tyler's skills.
Lewis, that's because you have forgotten I can literally pause time until we make our pick. You've forgotten, but this power remains.
Yeah, so question in the chat, what QB help is coming for the Giants? So I think there's plenty. I think that there's enough out there that I think it's an upgrade on Daniel Jones. I'm not worried about that. Like, obviously, that could change. If Will Levis ends up being the quarterback in New York, then definitely reserve the right to change that. But Tyler, in terms of how this first round played out with Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra, Malik Neighbors, BTJ, and Devin Achan. Anything from that's kind of shocked you over the last 24 hours since these drafts opened up?
I mean, I don't find anything really shocking. Last year's big board ADPs were kind of similar. There were some clear avoids, there were some clear values, and those only took 3 to 7 days initially to kind of work themselves out. And then once you started getting kind of your morsels of draft rumors, free agency rumors, et cetera, really the only ADP I don't really like at all in the first round is either of Devon Achane or Christian McCaffrey. Both of those guys just feel like very fragile, hopium picks right now that I don't really want a lot of. And outside of that, I understand why and where everybody else is going. I won't be surprised when a guy like Gibbs slowly trickles down in the wide receiver heavy landscape of Underdog. Piss boy is going to piss boy. And Brock Bowers' price is I'm not going to have a ton of him just given opportunity cost when guys like McBride are going in the third. But other than that, I'm sad to see guys like Ladd McConkey, BTJ, Bucky so expensive is all.
Yeah, it felt like, particularly with the way Ladd went out, it was always going to happen. But we're back on the clock. Jaden Daniels, Joe Mixon, Chuba Hubbard, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Marvin Harrison, Xavier Worthy, Jalen Hurts. I'll be honest, I don't really love this tier, but DJ Moore I'd kind of be okay on at the back end of the third round. I'm not normally in on him. Mike Evans feels okay. Anything stand out to you, Tyler?
I mean, no one says we have to take a receiver, but I do like buying pieces of the Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams offense. Yeah. My early narrative lean is that power slot Roma Dunze post Keenan Allen is going to be the biggest beneficiary. But there's a good chance that just both DJ Moore and Rome are fantastic. Rome's price and profile make me think, he could be like the JSN post, apocalypse of Shane Waldron part 2. So I will probably have more Rome once again than I do DJ Moore, but DJ Moore is very, very good. And I trust Ben Johnson to lift all the ships of this offense. I have full confidence in that. So I'll have plenty. And, it's just this tier right now, it's tough because I like some guys and then the rest I don't like at all. And so with early ADPs, I'm not going to be afraid to reach for guys I want.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart move at this point. We are back on the clock, though. Xavier Worthy, Devonta Smith, Zay Flowers, Jameson Williams are the wide receivers. Joe Mixon kind of feels fine. It feels like when Joe Mixon hits the cliff, he is going to go full Austin Eckler. But I'd be all right with that. Chuba, even I like. Do you think we need a wide receiver here, or can we afford a running back?
I think we can afford running back, and I feel better about Mixon than I do Chuba simply because, I don't love Mixon's ADP, and I get he's kind of expensive and fragile if you look at it the right way. I just want to note that like he did get hip drop tackled in the first 6 weeks of the season. That's going to hamper any player. The O line was atrocious, and they just fired the troublesome OC that wasn't really running a good scheme. They ran really bad with, two players tearing their ACL on the offense. The offense just had a really rough, bad season, and Nixon had some really solid stretches and weeks. I don't want to forget that injuries hamper guys. I don't want to forget that they have clearly said last year was not acceptable. We want to make adjustments. We want to do better. We want to address problem areas, and they're doing so with the coaching staff. They love Mixon. They want to use him more. As far as like this engine guy, what happens if he runs a little bit healthier? And that's kind of been the story of his entire career, right? Like he's had some seasons hampered by injury and bad stretches. I trust that Houston's going to be trying to be a good offense. And if you're going to give me that much of a discount, if this is where he just ends up going, fine, it'll be light. But early ADPs, I'm still kind of a slave to a little awoo. And if you're going to give me a 12-round pick, then it is. That's the thing. Recency bias. I wouldn't take Mixon, right? Unless you're like, well, he scored a touchdown versus Kansas City. It's more of just like, some olds are gonna prove me wrong in these early drafts. I'm gonna try to draft with a little less bias and a little bit more flexibility, because I just don't love any of the guys right now in some of these tiers.
Yeah, and I think that we can get to a point later where taking rookies at a point where you're taking question mark players who are wide receiver threes or can be wide receiver 3-4 if there's movement on their rosters. I'm kind of okay with that. But yeah, just getting to a couple of questions. Lewis asking, when drafting this early, do you tend to target team stacks rather than specifically QB pass catcher? Yeah, I think that's a fine tactic. I think also, as was mentioned in the chat as well by Spurious News, that just targeting conferences and stacking up Ravens with Steelers, stacking up Jets with Bills, those kind of things all come into play for little correlations that might help. Like when we get to week 17, of course, we don't know what the season's going to look like in terms of the fixtures at this point. Yeah, the RB piggies are hungry early. They definitely are. We've got a team that's gone 3 RBs out of the gate and then gone with Joe Burrow straight away. Tyler, we've got one more here, though. Will you change anything this year for drafting? Lessons learned from 2024. Do you think you're going to be less zero RB, less hero RB? Do you think you'd be more open to dual RB starts than last year?
I think I was pretty flexible on how I played those things. I think the thing I was inflexible about, and the thing I've mentioned a couple times, is my biggest lesson learned is be diversified in, like, if I want a construction like hero or zero RB, neither one of those things were wrong. What was wrong was not mixing up who those players were. Hero RB would have been more successful. Zero RB would have been more successful with me if I shifted and attacked different types of guys. For every 40% Tyler Algier Ty Chandler I had, if it was more often Tyler Algier, Chuba Hubbard, etc., guys in those ranges, and then which ranges I attacked for those things. Be flexible where you don't have to be inflexible. It was like the biggest lesson learned of construction's not the problem. It's just who the combos and the makeups of those guys are, while also realizing that, QB and wide receiver injuries ravaged a lot of things that could have changed how I looked back on this last year.
Yeah, so much of last year was just influenced by Jamar Chase and Saquon Barkley over on Underdog. We are back on the clock. Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Malik Neighbors, DJ Moore. Like, there's a lot of interesting names here. Sam Laporta at this price feels kind of okay. I'm kind of all right with that. I can't talk us into Debo at this price after drafting a lot of him last year. Chris Olave, I see you hovering over. Are you big on him? Chris Godwin.
I'm not big on any of these guys, but I mean, just, these are names.
We got 1 second. We'll go Sam Laporta.
Yeah, Laporta feels fine.
So in terms of where we're at, we've got Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Malik Neighbors, DJ Moore, and Sam Laporta. So nothing in terms of stacked, but in terms of where we're at for roster construction, it kind of feels fine. Luther Burden is the top wide receiver rookie at this point. Rich had him at his 104 in a Superflex rookie mock draft that he put out last week. I'd be okay taking him. I can't say I know huge amounts about him, but the way Rich spoke about him, Rich is very good normally with his wide receiver evaluations. I'd be open to taking an upside swing on a rookie here and just kind of pushing into that. I just feel like when you look at Chris Godwin, Khalil Shakir, Debo Samuel, there's so many question marks of them. Are you down with a rookie?
I'm definitely down with a rookie, and I've been taking a lot of burden. And I just read a couple of mock drafts today that have Agukpa also in the first round. So good with either guy. Just want to make sure I'm not too heavy on one over the other over the course of my portfolio. But yeah, let's get a rich boy, as I'm going to start calling Rich's targets.
Yeah, and if you haven't checked out that mock draft, it is only a 5-minute dead fast, very early mock draft that Rich put out on the channel a couple of days ago. A lot of fun, some rookie highlight videos in there as well.
Okay, real quick. Hey, Mountain Man. Cheeky bastard.
In terms of rookie wide receivers we're targeting, I mean, me and Tyler definitely aren't the guys to give you guys who are going really deep, but Rich spoke diffusively about Isaiah Bond. He put him in his top 12 for a super flex rookie mock draft, and a few people were surprised by that. I would say go and check out Rich's video on that, and he kind of talks up why he likes Isaiah Bond so much, particularly with an eye towards best ball. Yeah, so in terms of how this draft's playing out, Tyler, how do you feel about it as we're 6 rounds through?
And this is so just again, I've done like 2 or 3 of these, and so what I've noticed is I don't mind going a little bit running back heavy early because there's these deep pockets of wide receivers where I'm like, I don't really know who I like the most, but they're all pretty flat. And I've seen rookies fall and I've seen vets fall. So I'm more likely to play what the market's doing right now, which is very confident in the veteran RBs, very unconfident in the wide receivers. So what I'm noticing is in these early drafts, the receiver pockets are much easier to play and get lucky with. The running backs dry up very quickly. So I'd rather get them early now while the running backs are going fast, and then get to kind of play the wide receiver pockets the way I want, especially with some of these rookie upside shots and potential overachieving offenses like the Bears with Ben Johnson. So I'm happy with how this is playing out because I'm also able to sneak in a potential elite tight end like Laporta or a McBride or a Kittle construction wise, so that I'm not forced to take as many shots on tight end if I don't have to, because tight end's pretty gross right now as things stand.
Yeah, for anyone who isn't familiar with this contest, unlike Underdog's typical drafts of 18 rounds, this is actually a 20-round draft. So do you find yourself in these giving that extra spot to an extra tight end more often, or do you just want to push wide receiver and take a couple of flyers on some more rookie wide receivers because of it?
I mean, we just saw another year of rookie wide receivers be such a super smash, either full season or in the playoffs once again. So I'd like as many of those guys as possible, especially not knowing who the good ones are going to be, who the smashes, or who the safe ones are going to be for at least the NFL draft. So you'd like more shots there. I find myself trying to take plenty of those guys. Once again, quarterbacks and running backs score more on half point PPR, which is what Underdog is. And so I've learned time and time again, I don't need 3 tight ends. With 1 out of 10, 1 out of 10, and then such a big final for the last 2 advancing rounds, I'm more likely to try to shove a 3rd quarterback and a 7th running back or an 8th receiver than I am some dust ball tight end in these contests, because the tight end's not as much to move the needle if you don't have the guy that laps the field. And right now there's not a clear McBride or Laporta late that can help that unlock. And so I'm trying to remind myself that, like, we've seen 3, 4, 5 tight end not really matter if you didn't get the right guys. So I'd rather just try to hit on the right 2 guys and put a more valuable premium position elsewhere.
Yeah, I can definitely get down with that at this point in the offseason. Like, generally, I'm kind of fine with 3 tight ends and 3 QBs in 20-round drafts because I want to stack them together as much as possible. But right now, don't feel the need to. Darnell Mooney, Josh Downs for Colts duo. Your boy Jalen McMillan, who you were very correct on this year. Mark Andrews, that just, feels like a good value to me. Anybody else in this range who I've not mentioned?
I think Mooney or McMillan is smart for wide receiver. You have a lean on either one.
Let's go McMillan.
Hell yeah, millions it is.
I just like I really thought what Darnell Mooney did this year was impressive, but I just wouldn't be surprised if the Falcons go out and add somebody who is a difference maker. It feels like the Kyle Pitts experiment is over and they're going to be looking to add another pass catcher, and maybe that hurts Darnell Mooney slightly. Of course, like a lot of Darnell Mooney's biggest games came with Kirk Cousins, so yeah, just a little bit of trepidation around him. And then in terms of like where we're at as a roster, I just think Jalen McMillan gives us so much upside. I'm not worried about Chris Godwin signing back with the Bucks. I think that he is probably going to end up moving on. Maybe I'll be wrong there, but at the moment, with the information we have, I'm good with it. Who do you have your eye on for this next pick?
Well, so my shout was going to be Spags' early flag planet rookie wide receiver is Trey Harris. Flying blind. If you're going to tell me Keon Coleman, guys like Jalen Warren, or a bully tight end, I think I'd rather just go for the rookie wide receiver, especially given how we've constructed so far.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fine. 5 wide receivers at this point in the draft, an elite tight end in theory, and then 2 running backs.
Unless you really want your Baltimore stack, and then we're done.
No. I'm good with pushing tight end further at this point. Yeah, I just think that what we've got now is kind of like a fairly comfortable roster construction for us. I do think that Sam Laporta had a really nice back half of the year and is going to be good. Now, I'm going to throw a name at you just to see where you're at on him, but Marvin Mims' ADP is going ahead of Rashad Bateman. Do you think that's right?
I don't think it's right, but I think I understand why. In terms of best ball, Marvin Mims' ceiling is 2 long touchdowns and 120 yards. That's going to happen twice, but and then Bateman. Okay. What Tom wants is Tyler to eat crow. So let me lean in. Let me lean in and eat my crow, folks. I was wrong about Rasiop Bateman. Turns out he was horribly hurt and injured the year prior, and with his first ever fully healthy offseason in the NFL, and a competent passing offense under Todd Monken, who is likely to return to Baltimore
on an extension.
And folks, let me tell you about extensions. Every time Bateman catches a touchdown, the Ravens fans in this community are at a full 3.9. So I like Bateman a lot, considering he got great coach speak. He had a very solid season. He had some very solid weeks. I think this team is likely to keep having to invest outside of receiver. If I had to take a guess, the way Bateman's used is valuable. And they already said that from the coach speak standpoint, which lessons learned, do not biasly apply coach speak. So they said they expect great things from Rashad Bateman, who had a great season once again. So I think Bateman's very solid, and I don't know how much I'm going to have of him just because of where he's going.
Well, it's a funny tier of wide receiver because it's got Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, Marvin Mims, and then some of the rookies in there at the minute. So I think this is one of those areas of the draft where there's going to be huge movement over the next
Absolutely.
2 weeks even. I mean, like Cooper Kupp's somebody that if he landed on the right team, he could end up, jumping up a bit. If the Rams signed him to an extension and decided to keep him and get him on a reduced rate, then he could end up increasing a bit if, like, the Rams announced, like, everybody's coming back. So, yeah, definitely understand that. I mean, Matthew Golden's somebody who's been gathering plenty of hype over recent weeks as well. Michael Pittman is somebody that, if the Colts brought in a good second quarterback, then you could see him start to creep up another round or so, maybe. Like, I don't
expect Jawan Jennings to sit here very long once rankings come out either. I've been loading up on him since Brandon Ayuk's coming off of a ACL and MCL. Debo's out is very, very easily this year. Ricky Pearsall looks fine, and despite him not doing a whole lot, he got insane volume the whole back half of the season. And looked very, very strong in a lot of ways. So I with a lot of question marks, I think San Francisco's due for a very nice bounce back. They also had a ton of injuries this year. So I do expect a lot of movement. The certain guys will move up in projections. The uncertain guys will drop, and then the market will make decisions on who they like and who they don't.
Yeah, so are you feeling running back here like Tajay Spears, Blake Corum, Rico Dowdle at the top of it? I'd be kind of okay pushing this one around. And like, honestly, I'd be more leaning towards QB than I would to running back.
Yeah, I once again view this as a nice quarterback pocket. I
Okay,
don't feel the
so
need.
Caleb or Jared Goff?
Yeah, let's try to double tap both with ADP.
Yeah, I think that's a nice one. We get the stack with both parts of that. DJ Moore stacked with Caleb, hopefully, and then we get Jared Goff stacked with Sam Laporta. We got Pat. Okay, Pat, we're back. We are so back, and it is going to be a very long best ball season this year. We'll try and do these as often as possible as we settle into a rhythm and start getting guests on over time. We've got slow draft picks that myself and Tyler are going to roll out standalone videos, which will be up on the channel, starting with the first ones in the next couple of days or so, and plenty more. So do hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and then go and check out Pat's channel, because Pat, definitely one of our favorite people in this space. In terms of this question, though, Tyler, when you guys are drafting these big boards, how many rookies are too many? So look, we've got a pick coming up, and then we can come back to this one. But let's lock in Caleb now. We've got those two quarterbacks that really works. Inevitably going to be on the same bye week. But do you have a kind of range where you're saying, 5, 6 is what I'm after in each draft, or do you kind of view it in that kind of draft draft capital way of going, okay, well, if I'm taking a couple of rookies earlier, then I'll probably pad it out with more veterans later on. Or if you've not hit the rookies early on, but you're getting into rounds 13 onwards and going, right now, time to hit 5 or 6 rookies and just start throwing darts.
I think, I mean, this is one of those terrible answers, but like it depends. And like non-ironically, one of the answers to that in chat from Spurious News was if you pick the right ones, it's not too many. That's the thing. I think there's a misconception that rookies come on slow. In the modern NFL, not many rookies get a lot of leash to start slow, and the ones that do are usually trash. I mean, that's just really it. If you're good, you hit the field, especially with more and more offensive, especially wide receiver. More and more are drafted earlier, and so there's more expectation to hit the field early. Even guys that kind of suck still saw the field early. Guys like Jermaine Burton still had paths to hit the field early on and make an impact. Whether or not they did is a different story. So I
Jalen
think,
Polk.
yeah, God. So, what a massive L that. Yeah, Jalen Cole. So at the end of the day, and then like rookie quarterbacks, you couldn't have drafted too many rookie quarterbacks last year, really and truly. Year before that, they all suck. This year, they're all awesome. Caleb, kind of flaming out, but who could have seen that coming with Shane Waldron, and Matt Eberflus? So I think at the end of the day, I think it's just about being mindful of who you're doing. I think super early on, we have very little information. We don't know who's likely to go in the first round, who had a good combine, who had a worrisome combine, who had a worrisome Shrine Bowl and combine, who's got some worrisome character flaws. Jermaine Burton again. Those are the things, like operating with very little information right now. I think it is prudent to be selective with how many rookies you're mixing in and price. If you're mixing in a lot of cheap rookies, then I think you could be more fluid with it. If you're taking a lot of rookies early on, well, you're saying those guys have to hit. So then at that point, I don't think you'd have to be. I wouldn't worry too much about the makeup of it. I'd say I'm just trying to be more mindful of how I'm building the teams.
Yeah.
Am I trying to get team stacks? Because at the end of the day, it's still 1 out of 10, 1 out of 10, and advancing 3 out of 10 is nice. But a full season of chaos, I want to be able to pad those things well. And if all the rookies smash, cool, no matter what. And some vets, I don't want to go off the beaten path and go after a bad vet just because I need a veteran on my team. Because what if I take 3 shots at a rookie, but one of them smashes? That's worthwhile, So it's tough to answer that question. I think it's just be mindful of how you're drafting and building. I don't take rookies for the sake of taking them. Try to have information with who you're taking, much like the guys that are vets. Not every vet is a worthwhile vet to take.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's kind of like looking at the roster and saying, well, what does this do for me? Am I counting on, getting a couple of weeks out of this player? Am I saying that this player is going to give me really strong production throughout? And if that's the case, am I pairing them with wide receivers that I'm also counting on them to give me really strong production throughout? So I think it's kind of, I wouldn't want to leave many drafts without 2 or 3 rookies, but equally, I'm not forcing it for the sake of it. But we are back on the clock. Obviously, double tapped quarterback last time we went around. Jerome Ford, Najee Harris. Like, Tyler, I want to go Najee Harris here. Like, I've got visions of Najee Harris in LA playing for the Chargers and Greg Roman just absolutely giving Najee Harris the ball consistently. We are going team old running backs, so maybe we can look to find some nice younger running backs to pair him with after this point. But like, man, that's a lot of touches that these 3 guys could get.
I don't love Harris, but it's notably a weak free agent class and a strong rookie class. And I think Najee's likely to be the premier free agent, which means that his team's not likely to invest a lot outside of him. And he could easily be the Zach Moss, who was going in this range of like 150, 160. I had a lot of, and before the neck injury, was more than on track to pay off his cheap price. If Najee gets above 110, I'm not into it. At 130, I learned my lesson last year. He might suck. That doesn't mean he's worse than the rookie that scores 0. Can I talk you into Cedric Tillman?
You don't even have to try and talk me into Cedric Tillman. I know people are down on him after like he missed a good period of time with a concussion, but like there was no incentive for the Browns to bring him back. Like, to clear concussion protocol, you've got to practice, but why bring him out there and make him practice when you don't really want to win any games? So yeah, I feel like there was probably a little bit of that at work, but Cedric Tillman was somebody that we were all going absolutely crazy over for a few weeks. So now getting him at this point in the 12th round, absolutely sign me up.
Well, especially, a couple more things on that. Cedric Tillman was one of the young players like Malik Neighbors, who first concussion adversely affected him for multiple weeks. So from a health standpoint, it also doesn't make any sense to force a guy coming off a concussion that missed 3 or 4 weeks with his first concussion back onto the field early whenever you're rotating PJ Walker. Also, with Deshaun Watson re-tearing his Achilles, hate to see that. Now the Browns have full onus to, they have to do something at quarterback that's not Deshaun Watson as the main answer, whether that's another old free agent like Flacco or Winston or whatever, or if that's more likely taking a shot on a Cam Ward, a Shadur Sanders. So I don't think his quarterback can get much worse than the Deshaun Watson, PJ Walker, and it's far more likely to be some sort of take a shot, he's down there somewhere type that he flourished, especially as an X receiver who flashed a lot of good stuff, like you said, in healthy environments with a functional quarterback. So I think at this price, there's not much better clicks on the board, and I think I'm going to have a lot of him as long as he's down here thereabouts.
Yeah, and a couple of picks after us, Travis Hunter goes off the board. Rich is 101 in the Dynasty Superflex, as Tekka says. Hunter going at 101 in that Superflex mock is certainly bold. Even if he's a wide receiver, I would have him at 103. Yeah, I know Rich was definitely going spicy with that one, but he definitely really believes strongly in Travis Hunter. I know Daniel Jeremiah is saying that he thinks that Travis Hunter is going to play more predominantly at wide receiver. So he's going to be probably one of the names that dominates the next month or two over draft season. It'll be very interesting to see how people draft him because there's going to be a wide range of outcomes there. Because if he ends up playing cornerback more often, then it will be a wasted pick. But man,
well, I do want to note on that. Did I read that wrong? That I could have sworn that in Daniel Jeremiah's first mock, he mentioned he likes Hunter at wide receiver, but he's in the minority of that.
Yeah,
so
that's exactly
he's
what
really plugged in. So I do just want to note that it seems the early consensus is teams are more willing to do the thing we've seen them do for decades: is play it safe, put him at the cornerback position, and you maybe if it's a sharp team, they give him a handful of snaps at wide receiver, unless a team takes a shot on him to make him receiver. So it truly is a little bit of a gamble there. But yeah, at these prices,
massively. I think what it's going to take is it's going to take a team with a good offensive coordinator who's got credit in the bank to be able to make that decision and force it through, and for Hunter to keep pushing that he wants to play wide receiver. So the range of outcomes there is definitely massive. But like this is the tournament where it feels like you have the most chance to capture that upside, definitely. And speaking of upside, a player with no upside, Kyle Pitts goes off the board in round 13 after rookie tight end Colston Loveland. Do you want more Dalton Kincaid or more Kyle Pitts? We can come back to that, but something to ruminate on. In terms of where we're at, there's a running back called Woody Marks, which is a new name to me. I don't know what else is catching your fancy there. I can't say I've ever heard of him. Again, I'm not big on the rookies
I
at this
clicked his
point.
name twice, and before logging on today, I saw Ray GQ of the
Yeah,
Dynasty Barbecue, I believe. Love him, love his content and his team, and he liked what he saw from Woody Marks, as well as the Shrine Bowl measurables. So sign me up, rookie go Burr.
yeah, I'm good with that. And also, when you look at that next tier of running backs, like what Tyler Algier, we clicked him plenty last year, still plenty of reason to do so, and it's leverage against the Bijan draft there. Then, you know, Jalen Wright, you can talk yourself into a second year bump. Javonte Williams, I'm not sure I want to go back to that. But again, he's going to be one of the free agents in a lackluster class of free agents. So anybody who wants to lean towards the veterans, maybe they could. But I'd be leaning towards Tyler Algier here unless you want to look to somebody else.
I don't mind that. I will just shout this out that quarterback gets a little thin after this range. So if you want to add a third quarterback, this might be the spot to do it, unless you want to roll two quarterbacks and risk the bye.
Yeah, I mean, what have we got in terms of? I don't mind, man. I'll let you make that call. I'd be all right pushing it one more round.
Let's push it one more round.
Obviously, this is where a lot of the quarterback movement's going to shake out. Geno Smith going down this low feels like a potential value. I know we were talking in our Discord earlier, and you were mentioning plenty of quotes about how Geno isn't definite about what his future has. I mean, Mike McDonald just seems a bit weird the way that he talks at times. I don't think it was too concerning for me, but it's definitely keeping his value down a little bit. And obviously, Geno wasn't as good for fantasy purposes last year as he was the previous year. You go back to 2 years ago, consistently throwing for 2 touchdowns a game. Last year, consistently throwing for like 1 touchdown per game. And that was the same for Matthew Stafford. If you're not getting 2 touchdowns per game, and you're not getting there on yardage and you don't have any rushing floor, it's just so hard to compete with the top guys. But as a QB3, I'm kind of fine on both those guys still.
I agree. And that's where I'm also fine just taking the shot on a Darnold, new home. Because right now his price is hampered by the fact that we don't know. Like the market's just saying he's not likely to go to Minnesota. And what if he goes somewhere worse? Where it's like, well, okay, but how much worse does it have to be for him to be truly atrocious? He does have a rushing floor, but on the Geno side, I think Mike McDonald wants him back. It's just the GM and the team have been really coy about potentially having him back. And I think someone asked earlier, like, well, what could the Giants do? Well, the Giants could say, hey, we either want the rookie or we don't like this rookie class, but we don't have a lot of leash to try anything fancy. Hey, Minnesota, hey, Seattle, we will trade you for the rights to Darnold. We will trade you for the rights to Geno. Hey, Saints, you want to take your medicine but have picks next year? We want Derek Carr. Like they can do things if they don't want to put their eggs all in that basket. I think Geno's very solid, and Geno has the out of either this offense getting better, and they signed Clint Kubiak, who had a really explosive vertical passing game with a pretty bad injury run out. So I do like those prices. It seems like Cam Ward's potentially the safer bet on a high top 3 quarterback pick in the NFL draft, and so that's kind of where I'm going to lean as far as that's concerned. Yeah, I mean Darnold's going to get super paid. You just hope it's not like some garbage team. The good news is he can't go back to the Jets, so it's got to be better than that. But I think it could sneaky be where the showing of the Giants decide, okay, what if we give the Daniel Jones contract to Sam Darnold instead? And then Dayball being like, oh, fine. I can see it.
I kind of feel like Dable needs a bigger swing than that in some ways.
Okay.
I still think that they need something which is going to make a bigger difference, or a bigger name, someone that they can trust, a veteran with a bit more of a proven record. And I know what Sam Darnold did this year was excellent, but I just think that the situation has to be very, very good for Sam Darnold, and I'm not sure that we're going to get that from a lot of the teams who can afford to pay him and have that time. I mean, I know Bindles was saying Cleveland, Las Vegas, Titans, and I think that they're all fair shouts, and I think that there's definitely some of those where we could see some Sam Darnold success, but I don't know about ceiling outcomes for him in the way that we saw him this year, where consistently when I was putting my weekly rankings together, I was having to put him fringe top 12, top 8 at times. So yeah, very much looking forward to that. I think free agency is kind of one of those points that I look forward to almost as much as the draft, because that's when we get to start. It's just those 2-3 days online. They're fun days to be very online, as we are perennially. But let's get back to our team. Sitting here with a 2.561. Sam
Look at
Darnold
you.
makes it back to us. Geno Smith makes it back to us. Do you want to take either of those over the other? Which one do you like most?
I mean, Darnold, if you're going to give me a 3-pick discount on a guy who could go to a really good, if one of these guys is going to rise multiple rounds and be a
Yeah.
smash, it's going to be Darnold over Geno, I believe.
Yeah, I'm good with that. And it also gives us possibly more opportunities to land on a stack that we weren't counting on by, just him landing on a team that we didn't necessarily expect. So I'm good with that. Tyler, do good folks some servicing and tell us where we're at on our team, please.
I love to service the fine folks. We are sitting in a 3-5-6-1 going into the 16th round of our underdog little board draft. 100K to first. Jared Goff, Caleb Williams, Sam Darnold at quarterback. At running back, we have the king, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, Woody Marks, the rookie, Tyler Algier, the constant, Malik Neighbors, DJ Moore, Luther Burden III, Jalen McMillions, Trey Harris, Cedric Tillman, and Sam Laporta as our lone tight end.
It's fun. I like it. What do you feel about like this tight end area that we've got to now with K. Dalton Schultz, Harold Fannin Jr., Hunter Henry, Noah Gray, Chiga Conquo, Zach Ertz, Juwan Johnson? Like, there's a lot of tight ends with question marks about in this area. Keep stacking those books.
K. Dotton gives us our little Tampa Bay stack, and I think getting him at if he ends up in the 180s, fine. But he looked solid to good. He has a really high ceiling if Mike Evans misses any time. Mike Evans turns 31 next year. He had some really nice stretches. I like him better than Schultz and Henry and Okonkwo for sure. And then Fannin, I don't know enough about the tight end rookie class yet to be super confident. So if you're going to give me a starting tight end running all the routes, that gives me confidence to say I don't need another tight end, and I can go elsewhere with my draft capital.
Yeah, for me, K. Dalton was the least touchdown reliant of that bunch that we're talking about there. And obviously, the rookie Harold is a bit of an unknown quantity, so you don't know what's going to happen there. Obviously, this time last year, Benson Ott was going higher than this and turned into an absolute zero burger for most of the fantasy season. Hunter Henry was kind of fine, but didn't find his way into the end zone. Noah Gray flashed and had moments. Chigo Conquo came on down the end. But K. Dotton is somebody who's a much easier click for me. So no, I'm fully on board with that one.
Can I clown the good people real quick? For the folks that want to draft Noah Gray, because what if Travis Kelce retires? Can I ask you to look in the mirror and ask yourself, do the Chiefs sit tight when Travis Kelce retires and say, nah, we good. We have Noah Gray? Or do you think they're going to do something about replacing Travis Kelce? Find God, okay? Noah Gray is not the heir apparent to the tight end market in Kansas City. And I'm fairly certain Travis plays one more year. And even if he doesn't, the answer is not Noah Gray. So if and when Travis Kelce retires and Noah Gray spikes 3 rounds, you sick fiends with CLV sickness need to realize they are going to find someone else to play tight end, because their offense revolves around having a guy that can be on the same page as Mahomes and manipulate the middle of the field with option routes, not just a warm body playing tight end.
Noah fan, according to Bindles. Yeah, I'm very much there with you. I think there's been plenty of talk about this tight end class being good. So it would be a surprise if they didn't look to add somebody. It would be a surprise. Like tight end's one of those positions where it feels like you can go into free agency and you can normally find somebody of a reasonable level that you can make work. Like guys like Noah Fant over the last couple of years, and then guys like it's there's normally people that you can go. I mean, like, look, the Chiefs could go and throw some picks at the Ravens for Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely. They could go and trade for Kyle Pitts on a flyer. Like, there are lots of guys about. Evan Ingram feels like somebody who's going to get cut by the Jags to me. When you look at his contract, I don't think that he's been worth it for a while. And I think that it wouldn't be a surprise to see them move on. So, yeah, I'm not necessarily out on Noah Gray. I would just prefer if he was maybe 2 rounds cheaper than he currently is. So we'll see where he settles down. But Tyler, we are 17. We're in the 17th round of the draft now, and we've only got one rookie. Do you feel like we should be? Well, no, we've got a couple, haven't we? Sorry, like we had a couple earlier on the wide receivers.
Yeah, we got three delicious, three delightful rookies. And I do want to just say Rashee Rice has come up a couple times in the chat, rightfully so. If there was no suspension risk, it's seemingly from what I recall, and I got to do my homework and go back through all the injury notes to make sure I didn't miss anything, because I forgot Brandon Ayuk did not have a clean just an ACL tear. I was reminded by Sacrilegious that it was a MCL ACL. So I won't have very much Brandon Ayuk. So as far as Rice is concerned, I believe his injury was a lot less severe than we thought, but I have to go recheck that. I am a little hesitant to click the button simply because the rumors that we heard were that the Rice stuff was really bad, but it was very unlikely he was going to serve it this year. So I am worried he gets slapped with a suspension, and I'll still likely draft him if he gets less than 8 games. But the market does overreact to suspension news and even suspension rumor. And so if and when that comes back up, I'm ADP doesn't matter too much, but where he's going right now, if you're telling me he's going to be regularly available in the 5th, 6th, 7th with any sort of rumor or potential suspension, I'd rather get him there than like the 3rd, 4th round where he's going right now. It's simply because I think that's a viable pocket for a multitude of players, and I don't want to miss out on those players right now, like your George Kittles or your Laportes.
Yeah, so we're on a 3-5-6-2 in terms of guys there. Antonio Gibson, Kenneth Gainwell, Ty Johnson, all towards the top of running back class. Wide receivers, plenty of kind of okay guys. Theo Johnson at tight end is an okay shout. Kareem Hunt, your guy. Jordan Mason. Anybody standing out massively for you, Tyler? We've got 2 seconds. Kendry Miller is definitely good with me. If not, just Sill.
No, I think Kendry is fine. You know, Kamara coming back, but Kendry is being used now, is not hated by all. He's definitely not the workhorse coming back. They don't use him like that typically, but they're going to have an all-new coaching staff now with Clint Kubiak also out. So there's just the potential that the new people come in and just kind of wipe things up and clean them up. So at this cost, at worst, you're giving me an RB2 at this point in the draft. I don't mind that at all. I think I'd rather just take shots at wide receiver.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like in 20...
I don't think I need another tight end.
Yeah, in 20-round drafts, I feel like you need at least 8. So looking what we've got there, I mean, it's not particularly incredible. Malik Washington as somebody to take a second-year leap, I'd be fine with. I don't think that we see Tyreek necessarily traded, but I'd be good with him. In terms of other guys, Trey Tucker, definitely fine. Luke McCaffrey, again, somebody, or Dimey Brown, somebody you could take a bigger leap. But outside of that, nobody really stands out for me.
Yeah, I like taking a Dolphin. I think they said that they're going to have to address the O-line, obvious. They're going to have to address quarterback too, obvious. But yeah, Malik Washington looked really sharp, both in the rushing game and the receiving game. And at worst, he has injury contingencies. Year 2 guy is interesting, even if Hill doesn't go, because Hill kind of looked a little bit on the decline, and it certainly would give them flexibility if they found a way to move on from Hill. Although I went back and looked through some of the Coach Speak Index archives for McDonald and the GM there talking about Hill, and it seemed like, you know, they settled things and it's fine for now. Things can always shift as they evaluate where the team needs to go. Now they want to attack team building. So for now, yeah, at this stage in the draft, I think it's very valuable to attack guys that are definitely going to be on a roster and definitely get playing time. and taking players that were pretty promising and that we're seeing the field with the same coach. Pretty hard to pass up. That said, this is a point in the draft where I don't mind taking some shots on rookies. We have a decently strong feeling go in the NFL draft that we're seeing buzz on, but I think vets that are, and this is where I'm going to be trying not to take a shitload of guys like Gary Slayton, who have been really dependable vets, but are free agents. And so it's like, I don't want to end up with a bag of last year's Zay Jones. Oh, he's a vet. He's definitely going to play. 0 playing time. I don't want those guys on my roster if I can take shots. So it's like, I don't want dead spots on my roster this late in the draft. And that's where I'm putting the needle.
Yeah, and Go AZ Cards, Charles says Tank Dell undraftable. Like, yeah, that's a player who I just definitely this early, I just don't see myself having to draft him at all. It feels like one of those situations where, like, his injury was brutal. You can see the underdog note there. We'll need multiple knee surgeries. We haven't heard anything yet about whether he's had any surgeries. He'll be waiting on swelling to go down. Tore the ACL, MCL, and LCL in his knee. Like, this is J.K. Dobbins level of injury where you're talking about coming back. You could potentially have scarring and all this. Like, this is probably about as bad as it gets with
this was
the
like
knee.
This was like the Nick Chubb injury as far as damage. The doctors noted that dislocating the knee complicated and made everything much worse. And you're looking at more closely like to a 12 to 13 month timeline. And because this happened so late, yeah, you've got to do what Nick Chubb did, which was you get one surgery to repair the first ligament. And then once that heals and the inflammation goes, you're able to address the second thing. So it's like Dell's at a very high chance of missing almost all of next season in like the median outcomes. And at best, you're maybe getting him back on the field, late in the season, but then ramping up. And how much value does that add to your roster when the injury is that bad? And again, I didn't have a lot of Nick Chubb this year. Didn't feel bad about it considering just what he was going through and how he, didn't touch the field till 13 months in basically with a full workload and was really hampered. He was only getting there by being shoved into the end zone multiple times, maybe a couple times. So, yeah, it's definitely, I'm not going to take any of this guy and I'm going to have a hard time. Guys like Christian Watson are also going late. But again, the injury happened late and it's a speedster with an ACL, but at least his is a cleaner thing.
Yeah, and the thing with Tank Dell as well that I'm also mindful of, it's going to be a new offense. He's going to be walking into that. They are going to have to make some wide receiver changes, whether that means bringing Stephon Diggs back and hoping that he could be good. But like, Nico Collins is the only wide receiver who know, like, contracted for them right now. So there's lots of the Texans need to figure out. And look, if Tank Dell by some kind of miracle looks like he's going to be good for the season at some point later on in the off season, then I'll draft him. It feels like his price isn't going to get too crazy. We've seen a bit of a run on tight ends here to kind of round out in the 18th round. Juwan Johnson, Luke Leachy, Zach Ertz, Chigakonkwo, Tyler Higbee, all guys who are kind of fine for your third tight end. I'm not sure that we need any more. We're kind of well set with what we've got.
Yeah, I don't think the only guy I'm slightly tempted by is Gesicki, who, if he goes back to the Bengals, is nice. There's no guarantee he does that, but I think they need more pass catchers than they don't. And I think they likely sign Gesicki for cheap just in case they can't bring back T as kind of like their interim slot. But I don't feel the need to take a third tight end given that we have Laporta and Otten. So I think we have full flexibility to do what we want to do here.
Yeah. So in terms of our pick, we are on the clock. It was mentioned in the chat by Hugh Hames that Hollywood Brown had Hollywood got taken. Okay, no problem. Worth checking. ADP of 213. So do make sure that you're looking out for him. But where are we going with this pick? Do you want to go with Gesicki, or is there a wide receiver that you're desperate for over the top, like Nick Nash as the rookie? Kind of fine with that.
Yeah, I think we did take two, to start our draft, we went, DJ Moore and Malik Neighbors, only two receivers through 5 rounds. We hammered some nice pockets. I think we've taken some nice shots on ascendant guys year 2, year 1. But with this kind of a build, I think there's more value in taking another running back or receiver than there is a third tight end. Truly.
What's the running back position look like before we come back around to it? Devin Singletary, Nick Chubb, Gus Edwards,
Oh,
Isaiah
baby,
Davis, Marshall.
Marshawn Lloyd is free.
I mean, yeah. Why learn any lessons from last
He
year? I
was
mean,
injured.
yeah. No, I mean, he had a bad run out. I mean, Josh Jacobs was better than expected, but I'd be okay with Marshawn Lloyd. I think he's probably got a little more upside than most of those guys. Otherwise, I'd be fine with a wide receiver. I don't know what else is in the list. Yeah. It's. I mean, Matt Collins is kind of fine, but I think he's a free agent.
He's a free agent. He's gonna be 32.
Okay, yeah. Let's not be doing that. Let's go. Marshawn Lloyd. And
Boom.
yeah,
We've learned nothing. Run back 2024.
Bindle's saying, "Am I crazy for liking Singletary here?"
All.
I think Singletary's fine. Yeah, I mean, we saw the ebb and flow of last season. He seemed to lose a bit of work at points and then gain a bit of it back down the stretch.
Some might say this year's Kareem Hunt.
I mean, I can
for whatever that's
definitely get
worth.
one.
Which, by the way, not a lot, but 20th round pick. No, I think you could do a lot worse than a veteran running back who's trusted by coaching staffs. And
Yeah.
you know, at worst will have some sort of. He's the type of guy that comes in to be a backup, whatever team he's on.
Yeah.
And we've seen random backups matter, whether it's Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, or Kareem Hunt this year, from like where they started on the depth chart to end the season.
Yeah. Sorry, off Schneid saying no love for Parker Washington. Yeah, I mean, it would be easier if the coaching staff hadn't changed. I just feel like wide receiver is going to be one position that they look to make some movements, and like it just feels like that could shake out a little bit. So not right now, but I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either. I've looked at him a lot. I'll probably bump him up in my ranks. I just want to remind folks that like one of the easiest things that I have actually done every year is when there's a new head coach in town, I do not act like the playing field is the same. It affects everyone on the offense and the defense, especially the offense when it's an offensive guy coming in. It's negatively affected guys like Dameon Pierce. It's negatively affected guys like Darius Slayton. Like when new head coaches come in and change things up, they usually bring in their guys. Sean Payton, great example. He doesn't care who you like. He's bringing in his guys. So with a new head coach in town, Parker was very interesting, very promising if he stays and if the new coaching staff likes and uses him. But this team has every reason to kind of like remake the offense with kind of middling bad guys like Gabe, Evan, and Kirk. Really, the only cornerstones you have on offense are T-Law and BTJ, and everybody else is up for debate about being remade. And Bulky's out. So how this GM, like new GM and new head coach, we don't know who they're going to attach to, and we don't know who they're going to come in and replace or mingle up. So like he's fine. I just don't know if he's guaranteed to be active or on a roster given all the changes we have.
Yeah, I can definitely get there on that. Huhaim's asking, I got here late. Did you say anything about Dowdle? His ADP seems weird being a free agent. Going at what round?
Yeah, Dowdle is going in a weird range.
ADP of 113 at the minute. I just find I don't mind Dowdle, and I think definitely he had a really nice season. I just don't think he's going to get as much volume as he did this year. I don't think any team is going to look at him and go, that's the guy we're going to build our running back room around. His explosive run rate last year was like 3.8%, which it's like, you know, among running backs with 100 plus rush attempts, you're talking like right around RB30 in that metric. And that's something which I always kind of weigh a little heavier for best ball, because I want guys who can change things in a flash. And I think he's fine. I just can get on board with him, and probably there'll be lots of builds where he works for it, but he's not somebody I kind of see as a priority at the minute.
Yeah, the price is at least tempting, given that it's kind of a flat range, but he is kind of like your Dameon Pierce of like, he did okay in where he was put, and then he's immediately replaced because he's kind of a replaceable talent and things are shifting. And here's the other thing too. Last year broke perfectly for him. They did not invest a lot in the free agent class that was kind of middling outside of the top three guys, and it wasn't a good running back class. From all accounts, it's a very good running back class in the draft, but a bad one in free agency. So I very much expect Dowdle to survive free agency, but not survive the draft as far as like very talented guy that can come in and do something. That's where I'm worried about for that cost. So if Rico was going more in that like Zach Moss, Singletary, 140 to 170 range. I'd say, yeah, for the price, he's going to be on the team. He's going to do, this is fine. This range, I'd rather have guys that, your Najee's, your ETNs, those guys have chances to go be running back one
Yeah.
immediately on the new team versus I think Dowdle is going to have to survive a lot of things. And then Bo Nix, yeah, like that whole quarterback carousel season after season, I end up with a lot of quarterbacks in that range. I'm going to hope to diversify a little bit more so it's not always the quarterbacks that brutally injure themselves for the whole season. But I like that price for a very mobile, very efficient rookie quarterback with zero bench risk.
Yeah, very much with you on that one. I think I'd be quite happy, taking a round 10 quarterback in that range. You look at Bo Nix, Caleb, Brock Purdy, Justin Herbert, Jordan Love, Drake May. I kind of like all those guys. I'd be fine with that. But Dak, CJ Stroud, where they are, would be big targets for me. Tyler, can you just recap our team one last time for us before we kind of get out of here tonight?
Would love to. And this is where I'm going to fit a lot in these early drafts to make sure I've got the right firepower with as little information as possible. Nice and robust. 3782, Jared Goff, Caleb Williams, Sam Darnold at quarterback, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, Woody Marks, Tyler Algier, Kendre Miller, Marshawn Lloyd, two favorite names last year that obviously did a lot for your best ball teams. Wide receiver Malik Neighbors, DJ Moore, Luther Burden III, Jalen McMillan, Trey Harris, Cedric Tillman, Malik Washington, and Nick Nash at wide receiver, and at tight end Sam Laporta, Cade Otton. Kind of like the team. I think we built a good one.
Yeah, I like it. I think that, the QB room is really solid. I think that the two stacks that we have with the QBs, skinny stacks, is a nice way to play it this early in the draft. Like, we didn't need to go too overboard with anything. And yeah, it's kind of fallen to us nicely. Maybe we could have had a little bit more youth of a running back position, but overall, I feel pretty happy about it. Kind of got down.
Algier, Kendre, Marshawn, they're so young and youthful. Their knees aren't, but their spirits are.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that'll have to do it for us, but that will do it for us for this one. We have got lots of slow drafts going, and we're going to be posting quick videos now and again of myself and Tyler talking through each different parts of the draft, how we see each bit of each round, those picks, where we rank players higher without the pressure of a quick clock counting us down all the time. And we will be bringing you lots more best ball content all the way through to September. Rich is grinding out rookie content, so please make sure you hit the subscribe button. Go over and check Rich's rookie content right now with the Superflex draft that's over there. Tyler, I know you've got another best ball show tonight. Where are you heading to?
We might be heading over to PPR Tyler's, do a little big board action, and if we don't, we might just be right here firing off a couple. It's just we're just gonna, it's quickie season, folks. That's just what we do. Yeah, definitely more coming your way for pre-draft best ball. Lots of fun stuff. It's good to be back in the saddle, folks.
So much. Appreciate everyone hanging out tonight. We'll catch you all very soon.